Okay, good afternoon, students. Today we will discuss the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And today we will just give an overview or overall uh, perspective of these goals. As we know that when this century started, uh, we normally said that this was the start of the new millennium. And because every millennium has got 1,000 years, so initially the UN established 7 goals, which were called MDGs, or 7 Millennium Development Goals. And it was resolved by the member states that by the year 2015, all the member states of the United Nations will have to achieve these 7 goals. However, when these goals were reviewed in 2015, it was observed that most of these goals are neither very clearly delineated and given in details, but at the same time, many countries were not clear about the way forward to achieve these goals. So keeping this in mind, and this challenge in mind, and as a matter of fact, the nations, the member nations of the United States once again tried to bring up a new set of goals, which they call Sustainable Development Goals. Now, before we define these goals in detail, it is really very important to see that what is meant by sustainable development. Sustainable development means that a development process in which the goals of development are achieved for the present generation without compromising the needs of the future generations. For instance, if we are trying to develop a new highway in a hilly area, we have to take care of the natural environment, we have to take care of the ecological system, and we have to design this new road in a way which cannot disturb the ecosystem or the environment of the region. Normally, this sustainable development lies at the junction of environmental sustainability, the social sustainability, and ecological sustainability. And sometimes we say that economic sustainability. So normally the 3 major components of the environmental sustainability is the social sustainability, environmental sustainability, and the economic sustainability. Now, back in 2015, the UN resolved to come up with a detailed work plan for these 17 goals, and they ultimately further expanded the 5 Millennium Development Goal into 17 Sustainable Development Goal. The first is that there should be no poverty. Now, the poverty has been defined by the UN. There are people who are earning less than $1 per day. So the UN, according to UN, the poverty that the people, nobody should be there in the world who may earn less than $1 per day, and that is something where the poverty would start. Certainly, the poverty is having many manifestations, and the countries of the world have been divided into different categories of the income, but there is a baseline below which the global poverty is measured. So the first sustainable development goal is to make sure that people earn the minimum amount so that they can lead their life in a respectable way. The second goal is SDG 2 is that there must be a food security and nobody should be sleeping hungry. You see that there is a large number of people, almost 1/4 of the world population is still having not access to the quality food. And majority of the people in this 1/4 of the world population cannot afford to have 2 times a meal in the day. So the no hunger would mean that people should not be sleeping without food. They should have at least 2 times of meal, normal meal, and there should be a food security around the world. Unfortunately, the developing countries and the countries where we have conflicting situations, where there are wars, we are facing a lot of food insecurity. So this is really very important that we have to make sure as a developing country, Pakistan, that the food security is ensured in all parts of the country and there is no hunger in the country. So this is really very important. The third sustainable development goal is good health. And as we all know that education and health is the one of the basic responsibilities of the state. So the access to the quality health and providing the health facilities to the poor people and remote areas is really very important. And it is very worth mentioning that the government, the present government has been trying their level best to improve the health card systems and different health programs. So I think this is the very important duty of the state to ensure that the basic health facilities are provided at very low cost or no cost throughout the country, at the and particularly in the areas which are very remote and which are not otherwise accessible. The fourth is the quality education, and certainly when we talk about the education, whether it is a primary, secondary, higher secondary, or higher education or tertiary education, the quality is basically the fundamental and basic requirement, because if the education is not of good quality, then our students and graduates would not be compatible to the national, international standards. And this would really then create a mediocrity or a low level of intellectual capacity of the students and graduates. So this is really very important that quality is part and parcel of education at every level. Unfortunately, with the years, since last many decades, the quality of education has not been the main focus of the governments, and particularly in the primary and secondary education, we had a lot of problems and a lot of challenges in the quality. In the higher education, we could see that the Higher Education Commission in the last almost 20 years now have been trying to improve the quality of higher education to some extent. But still, if you see, Pakistan has very few universities in the top 500 universities. So quality of education is one of the biggest challenge before us, that instead of number of graduates and number of students, we need to bring the quality also as a part of education, so that our student can become more innovative, more creative, more contributing to the global economy and to the national economy. And that is where the education can play its very dynamic role. The SDG 5 is the gender equality, and it means that giving access and opportunities to all the genders. There are males, there are females, there are people who are kind of having in between, and there are people, the transgender we call them sometime, and these transgenders are also the human beings, and they have the right of education, the right of employment, the right of, unfortunately, in our society, the transgenders and the people which are not having the proper sex are not having the opportunities for their education. Rather, they are treated very negatively in the society. So we have to understand that this is a natural phenomena, and if someone is born with a transgender qualities, then we have to be careful about them. Similarly, the people who are born with special abilities, which are not able to perform certain essential operations in the life, we normally call it people with disabilities, but I think this is not a proper word for them. the most important and appropriate word is for them is to the people with different abilities, because these people are not disabled, rather they have different abilities and they can. To reduce the inequalities would also mean that we involve the people who are born with different abilities. We involve the people of the remote areas into the development process. We provide opportunities to the females and the people who are in their involvement in the policy making of the female, the transgenders, the people with different abilities, and all these. So this is really very important when we talk about the gender equality. The next is the clean water and sanitation. And I was just reading an article this morning that almost 40% of the global population is not having access to the clean water and sanitation. And this is almost 20 billion people are lagging, either they don't have the quality water and are the quality sanitation for their use of their washrooms and proper washrooms and things like that. Now, this is really creating a lot of problems in the developing countries where the people don't have the access to the proper latrines. They don't have the access to the drinking water, and most of the countries in the developing world are faced with the waterborne diseases, and they have the hepatitis and they have other kinds of diseases. So this is really very important, and that's why the International World Water Management Institute and the UN has been emphasizing highly on access of the quality water to all human beings. And at least they should have some facility of washroom through which they can use for their basic needs. Now, this is really very interesting that the water issue is equally faced by the developed and developing countries. In the developing countries, we have the quality and quantity issues both. Even in the urban areas like Islamabad, we are not able to meet the water requirements of the entire population, and the water needs which people have are met to the extent of 50 to 60%. There are a lot of issues like water management, water conservation strategies, but at the same time, there is a capacity problem also. The sanitation, again, people don't have the proper washrooms in the world. In India, for example, people are defecating or in the pipes, in the open, and there is no proper latrine system for them. In a bigger population, almost 25 to 30% people don't have that access to the proper washrooms. So the UN has emphasized that the people around the world should have at least the potable drinking tap water, and they should have the proper washroom facilities of minimum possible capacity. The next is clean energy, and as we know that over the last almost 50 or 75 years, we have been using mostly the fossil fuels for the production of energy. For example, the petrol, gas, and coal, and even the vehicles we are using are mostly relying on the fuels, on the fossil fuels. Now, this is creating a lot of this non-sustainable energy is creating a lot of problems like the global warming, greenhouse gases, and we have the climate changes and things like that. So the world is now very much focusing on bringing the concept of clean and renewable energy, in which the more focus is on the mini hydropower and run-of-river like energy projects, and at the same time using the solar systems for the production of energy which can be renewable, so that the energy is not only available to all parts of the world and to the poor communities also, but at the same time this energy is also clean, and it is not creating any pollution or any contamination for the air. And we will discuss later in the climate adoption that how this changes in the climate is creating a new challenges for us. The next is then decent work and economic development. There has been a lot of disparities and inequalities around the world because some people or some part of the world are having highly rich people, and their per capita income is very high, and they have a lot of facilities. But at the other hand, the world is having the most poor people also, who don't have the access to the decent work and economic growth. So this SDG number 8 is desiring or demanding that we should provide equal opportunities of development to the all parts of the country and the world. And even if we look at Pakistan inside the country, there is a lot of disparity between different parts of the country. Some parts, like urban centers, are having good elite class of people, and you see that the resources have been concentrated in the top 100 or 200 families. But at the same time, the people in the remote areas are facing a lot of problems. They are poor, they don't have the opportunities for the economic growth, they don't have the money to start their businesses. So this is now calling to involve the underprivileged segments of society to give them a sustainable and an honorable way of living and earning their life. And this would mean to develop the entrepreneurship, to develop the new businesses, to give the loans to the poor so that they can start their businesses. I remember a very famous Chinese quote that if you give a fish to a person who is hungry, you will feed him for one day or maybe half a day. But if you teach him how to catch fish, you can make him enable to earn his livelihood also. And then there is another version of this, that if we enable him to sell his fish on the virtual platforms or in the e-commerce, then you definitely bring his business to the international market also. So we need to make use of the modern techniques and technologies. We need to bring the modern entrepreneurship and the ways we can enable the societies in the remote areas and the mountain areas particularly, to see that how these people can be enabled to start their businesses and the entrepreneurship can be promoted in these regions. The next is then the industry, innovation, and infrastructure, that we need to bring industrial growth across the country, across the world, and we need to promote the innovation, the new products and services, and this is SDG 9. And then for that, we have to develop the infrastructure, the physical, the technological, the intellectual, the human infrastructure, all is very important. So when we talk about the growth in the world, this would require that industries are established across the country, and then we have the innovative products and services, and then we have the infrastructure like the energy, we have the physical infrastructure and technological. When we talk about Pakistan, I think we need to bring the remote areas in the developing part of the country, which are not very actively involved in the development. We need to establish the industries in these areas as well. And we also need to develop the people of these areas through technological advancement. It is very interesting and very encouraging that the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is starting from the north of Pakistan and going throughout the country to the Gwadar, is providing a lot of opportunities for the different parts of the country to develop their infrastructure and also develop their industrial base. And we would need to bring our human resource developed so that they can harness the opportunities of these developments. The 10th, SDG 10th, is to reduce the inequalities. And I think this is again a further explanation of the SDG 8 and 9 and maybe 6, in which we are trying to reduce the gender inequalities. We are trying to develop the decent work and economic growth, and we are trying to develop the infrastructure. So this all would reduce the inequalities, both in terms of human capital, in terms of financial capital, and in terms of technological capital. So we would need to develop the different parts of the country in the world so that there is no inequality in terms of their access to different opportunities with the globalization and the modern technologies are offering. Then we have the SDG number 11, which is sustainable cities. Now, unfortunately, if we look at the last 3 or 4 decades, 30 or 40 years, there has been a lot of problems with the urban cities, and you could see that even in Pakistan at the moment we have almost 30% people are living in the cities, and 35 or 36% people are living in the city, and it is expected that by year 2030 50% of the Pakistan population will migrate to the cities. Now, these migration of the people to the cities, which is called urbanization also, that the urban extent is expanding and the people are migrating to the urban or cities for more opportunities of education, jobs, and other facilities. This is creating a lot of problems for the cities. Like the biggest problem, we have the pollution, we have the unemployment, the availability of housing, we have the utilities like electricity and water and gas, and there are crimes issues, there are traffic issues, vehicular emissions, traffic jams, and many issues have been created, and the cities are becoming unsustainable as a result of these burdens or these migration or urbanization. So the SDG 11 is talking about the sustainable cities, in which we can bring the environmental, social, and economic sustainability, and we can make sure that these cities are not further deteriorated, and the environment and the economic conditions and the social aspects of the cities are further improved, and we make these cities sustainable. If we don't take care of these sustainable cities perspective, I think the cities would become more polluted, and the people in these cities would face a lot of diseases and problems. And even today, if we look at Islamabad as a capital city of Pakistan, we are witnessing a lot of problems. The biggest problem is the housing. A good number of people are living in slums. And then we have the problem like water supply, the problem of availability of basic necessities of life, and education is another issue. The employment of people. So all these issues are now very prominently available in Islamabad also. So we need to take care of these cities and to make these cities as a source of economic development. The next SDG is the responsible consumption and production. And the responsible consumption again would mean to bring us to the sustainability. That we have to face a shortage of material, we have to face the shortage of resources. And if we don't plan our consumption in a sustainable way, which can focus on 3R, that is reduce, reuse, and recycle, that we should not waste the resources, we should not waste the material, we should not waste the water, we should not waste the energy, and we should use the resources in a very optimal way, so that we can save the resources for the other people and other generations to come. The next is then reduce and reuse. That how can we reuse some of the resources which are available, some of the waste material, the wastewater, the rainwater harvesting, the water which is collected from the roof of the buildings can be reused for the gardening and for the irrigation. So this is how can we reuse the waste. For example, how the building demolished material can be reused in the building, and so on. And then the recycling is, though a complex but difficult way, that we can have some mechanical processes to recycle the different kinds of material, maybe water, maybe other things, energy, so that we can reuse that energy for any other purpose. Similarly, the production, sustainable production would mean to bring the technologies which can use minimum resources, which can have a minimum use of resources. We can optimally develop the new things, the efficient engines, the efficient machines, which can have the less inputs and maximum output. And similarly, the clean technologies in which we are using the technologies which are not polluting the air, which are not using the more resources. And sometimes we call these green and green technologies. So this is the responsible consumption and behavior, that both on the consumption side as human beings, we have to be very careful about the natural resources. We don't have to waste it. In Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu inna Allah la yuhibbul kafirin musrifin, that please, Allah says that eat and drink but don't waste, because Allah don't like those who waste. And in other place, Allah says that Allah Ta'ala don't like them who those who are not thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and who are wasting the things and the resources. So being an Islamic in Islamic perspective, we have to be very careful about the use of resources, whether it is a water, energy, or food. We don't have to waste it. We have to take as we can eat, and we have to reuse the food which has not been taken, and we have to reduce the number of meals in our dining table, and we should use the maximum resources. The next is the climate, the SDG 13. This is really very important for the people of the north in Pakistan and Gilgit-Baltistan also, that we could discuss that the climate change is a phenomena in which the pattern of weathers are changing, and for example, the winter is starting earlier and it extended for longer period. For the last 2 years in Gilgit, we could see that the winter has been very early, and then there has been a severe winter, and all of a sudden we could see that the summer started. And even this year we could see that the weather pattern has been very different. So this climate change is really bringing a lot of challenges, and the reasons for this climate change is, for example, the global warming, the greenhouse gas emissions, the air pollutions, and so on. In the current century, there has been statistics that the global temperature has been increased by 0.75 to 1 degree Celsius, and it is estimated that within the next 100 years, the temperature may increase by 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. And that would mean that all the glaciers, or most of the glaciers of the north, would be melted, which will not only reduce the water resources, but at the same time, it would create flooding in the downstream. And there will be a lot of problem in the long term for the sustainability of the water resources in the entire country and in the Indus Basin. So this is really very important that we need to take care about the climate change. The Karakoram International University is currently involved in a very intensive research under GLAF2, which is a UNDP project. And we are trying to see that how can we increase the capacity of the society, and we can reduce the vulnerabilities of those societies who are threatened by this climate change. Pakistan, unfortunately, is one of the 10 top countries who are who are vulnerable to these climate changes in terms of glacial mass retreat, in terms of floods, in terms of glacial lake outburst floods, which we called GLOBs, in terms of slides, in terms of tornadoes, or in terms of avalanches and things like that. And all these would certainly create a lot of problems for the people who are living in the upper altitude and in the north of country, who are very close to the glacial areas. So certainly these people have to be facing these disasters if we don't take the appropriate actions. In the last, I think, 3 years, since I'm here in Karakoram University in Gilgit, we could witness after the Atabad Lake slide, we could see the Ashkoman in the Batswat. There has been a GLOF event, and then this was followed by another event in the Shishpur, which flooded last year, and again this year it is again susceptible to high flood burst, which could damage a lot of agriculture fields, powerhouses, At least 3 powerhouses have been damaged by the Shishpur. And even today, we are faced with a lot of alarming situation. If there is high flood, it can create a lot of challenges. And maybe the main KKH highway is also affected, and a lot of people, their livelihood would be disturbed. So the climate action means that how can we mitigate or reduce the impact of this climate change on the population, on the infrastructure, on the facilities. Certainly, Pakistan is contributing a very small part to this climate change and global warming because we have a very small number of industry. But unfortunately, the impact of this climate change and the associated hazards is much higher. In Pakistan is on the top 10 list of the highly vulnerable countries to the climate change. So this would require a lot of action on the part of scientists, on the part of public health people, on the part of the governments to play their role, that how can we mitigate and reduce the impact of this climate change on the societies, on the livelihood, on the natural resources, and through better planning, we can reduce the impact of these climate changes. The next 14 is the marine life and the life under the sea, the aquatic life. There is a lot of species which are becoming endangered now because of the changes in the ecosystem and the changes in the quality of water below the in the sea. The major large number of species are now threatened, and we have to take care of them. For example, the mangrove forest in Karachi are reducing sharply, and the mangroves which are rearing and developing in these forests are again under threat. So similarly, a lot of species which are under the water, within the water, are threatened with these changes, ecological changes, and there is need to save them for further extinction and further damage. And this would require a very sustainable ecological aquatic system to be developed across the country. The next is SDG 15, which is life above the sea level or on the land, that the species which are there on the Earth's surface, they are also having a lot of issues. For example, even in north of Gilgit-Baltistan, we have now a large number of flora and fauna, animals and plants, which are threatened due to the changes, due to the change in temperature, due to the pollution, due to the infrastructure development, and their habitats, their living places are subject to high challenges. So there is a need to save these species because the biodiversity would depend on their survival, and if we don't save these lives on the earth, then certainly we will seriously disturb the livelihood of the different species and also the biodiversity, which is really very important for this entire world to survive. So the life on the Earth's surface is also equally important, and we need to develop the systems through which we can reduce the impact of the modern developments on these species on the Earth's surface. Then we have the 16, very important, peace and justice, that we have to make sure that peace is provided to all the people and the institutions which are providing the peace. That must be impartial, unbiased, and the merit and justice must be ensured at all levels. All the decisions must be made on a justice and a merit, and we should not discriminate the people on the basis of their sect or language or race or region or nation. And this would definitely discriminate the entire humanity, and ultimately the sustainability of human beings would not be possible. So peace and justice, I think, at the top of everything, that we should have to comply with the, to strengthen the judiciary system. We have to strengthen the peace and justice system. We have to develop a system through which the merit can be established at all levels in the country and in the institutions. And there must be a strong accountability system through which the people can be held accountable to their acts. And there must be a very stringent and strong enforcement of law and enforcement of the rules and regulations. And finally, the SDG 17 is talking about the partnerships that without the deployment of a strong partnership at regional, national, and global level amongst the stakeholders, all stakeholders, the government, the academia, the society, and the business community and the industry is really very important to achieve these goals. So if we talk about the 16 goals, certainly we can't achieve these goals through without the proper partnership and without having a regional, national, and global partnership. And we have to create more and more partnerships around the world so that we are able to achieve these goals. So thank you very much. This was general a brief overview of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And next time we will discuss the first goal, that is SDG 1. There are about 169, I think, goals, targets under these 17 goals, which are to be achieved by the different countries of the United Nations by year 2030. The global situation in general and the situation of Pakistan in particular is not very encouraging in terms of achievement of these goals. But as an education institutions, we are trying to improve the awareness about the SDGs at one hand, and at the other hand, we are trying to achieve some of these goals through better management. Karakoram University, we have already established as SDG Academy, and we are trying to see that how various initiatives of the university can be linked to these 17 goals, which are very important for the sustainable development across the world. So my students, ladies and gentlemen, we will discuss these different targets next time. Thank you very much, and till that time, Allah Hafiz and goodbye.